So today I'm talking to an artist at Rocky Mountain Tattoo, Scott, and just tell me a little bit about your apprenticeship, how that all got started.
Oh, right into the apprenticeship, eh?
Well, yeah, because it's honestly a topic that I've been interested in myself for some time, as you can imagine.
Way to not hold any of the punches. Well,
I've got some punches.
there's lots of right ways to apprentice as a tattoo artist and lots of wrong ways.
Yeah.
And I personally pride myself in being able to say that I've tried most of the wrong ways as well as one or two of the right ways.
Yeah.
Step one, let's go with the warnings first. Step one, choose an artist that you actually want to emulate and train under them. You can't learn good techniques from a bad artist.
Right.
Step two, try not to be self-taught. Being self-taught is kind of an act of pride and an act of ego, and rarely goes that well, and rarely ends up in professional results. So, I actually started out stick and poke. I don't know if you knew that, actually.
I did know that, but I don't know the story there.
Okay, fair. So actually, it's covered up right now, but I got a little stick and poke tattoo from a really good friend of mine, actually in a tent in Australia. And from that immediate moment, I had this idea stuck in my head where, how does this dear friend of mine, how does she hold in her hands this magic to mark my skin forever?
Yeah.
I could do that. That is incredible and incredibly simple, and a process that just feels so smooth and beautiful.
Right.
So sure enough, probably 6 months, a year later, doing my normal ass electrician job, as a little hobby, I ordered the stick and poke stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of from there, the love was born. I just did a few little stick and pokes on myself and ended up bringing that stuff to Cambodia, where I went full-time tattoo artist. I just stick and poked everybody I crossed paths with. I made a living off of it. I had a blast and started learning to draw.
Right. So before you knew how to draw, you knew how to tattoo.
I fell in love with tattooing first.
No, and I think a lot of people do these days, right? Because I honestly can't draw, but I have an amazing design sense. I have vision for how things should be and how they could fit together. Like I could put things together like a puzzle where it's like, okay, this should be here and this should be here. But I can't draw that. If I draw it, it looks way worse than I pictured it would. And it's not even a little worse, it's embarrassingly worse. Like it looks like what drunken child drew this picture? But wow, what a cool idea. Right?
If you ask me to draw a cat,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a real weird time drawing that simple, cartoony, Garfieldy cat.
Right.
However, when it comes to composition and design, I seem to have some sort of natural skills or at least practice at this stage.
Right. So that's something that people often don't understand is like you see a tattoo artist, you assume that they must be painting all the time, and at home, when they're at home on their free time, they're drawing and they're working on all these different art projects. Like it's this bizarre fantasy that every waking moment these guys are designing things. And
I mean, in the beginning, certainly recommend that.
Yeah.
I definitely went through that phase where I spent all day tattooing and I spent all night drawing.
Right.
And that's pretty important, but it's still secondary to your composition process.
Oh, yeah.
When you're designing something to fit a human body, composition and how it fits their body is easily one of the most important things.
You can put a great tattoo on a crappy area, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the things I talked about I wanted this giant spawn tattoo on my inner bicep. Like it was like a comic book cover.
Yeah.
And Lee's like looking at it. He's like, this is cool, but what if we do something that isn't shit?
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? Like it was that way too.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, that's a cool picture, but that's not going to make a good tattoo. And some people get upset when they hear stuff like that, but I look at anything like that, like you said, electrician. So if I get an electrician to my house, I'm not going to be there over his shoulder like, hey man, I would really do it this way. What are you doing? Give me that thing. Let me get in there. It's like, you've gone to the expert, and now you're telling him how to do his work.
If the expert says your house is going to burn down, you don't want that tattoo.
Same thing. When the plumber's fixing my toilet, I'm not in there with him. He's doing his thing. I'll pay him later. I'm not even worried about it. He's going to fix the toilet. I'm going to have a better toilet. He's going to get some money. Like, it's the perfect way to do it, right? So when Lee told me that, it was just like, yeah, okay, we'll do it your way because I've come to you for your style, and I know it's going to look better if we do it your way.
Yes.
Right.
Sticking to an artist's style is pretty huge, actually.
But I've heard, like, where some people are like, he just didn't want to do it. I'll go to get someone else to do it. It's like, yeah, and then they'll do it because they don't have any scruples, and it'll be a worse tattoo for it, right? You'll get what you want despite the fact that it's not good.
Yeah, do you want to push someone outside of their comfort zone and get a tattoo they're not comfortable with?
Right.
Get a tattoo that isn't their strength?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go find someone whose strength is the style you're looking for?
Right, exactly. And like, on the technical end of things, we're talking about drawing versus execution, right? And design sense. Like with blackout tattoos, for example, it's like, that's not art because it's just black. It's like, yeah, but the art is in the execution. And I think that's a big part of tattooing in general is getting the tattoos to stay and look good on the body, not just having pretty pictures. Like
exactly.
If you just do a really nice rose and you stick it on someone's chin, well, it doesn't matter that it's a really nice rose.
Yeah.
It looks stupid.
It looks silly as fuck.
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe someone's pulling it off. I don't want to offend anyone. Maybe
Yeah.
someone's wearing a really cool chin rose. I don't know.
Exactly.
But
and you can call blackout not art as long as you want until you see someone who is not good at blackout work do a blackout.
all torn
And
up.
suddenly it's magic.
Yeah.
Suddenly it takes mastery
Yeah.
to create a nice, smooth, solid black
Right.
effect.
And then you'll see the comment to that is, well, it's good execution, but the guy who got it is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's just black. Why would he get just black? There could be so much there. And it's almost like it's jamming up their brain. They're trying to process this. They put so much, and I would have put this cat there, and I would have had a dog on this arm, and it would have been this thing and that thing. And you just went black, and you had all this money, and you threw it away to just look like that. It's like, yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, truthfully, I feel that way a little bit too.
Yeah, and fair enough.
Oh, yeah, where I'm sitting here going, especially earlier in my adventures into tattooing, I wanted to put as much detail and as much subject into each small area as I could.
Yeah.
It was almost a goal of mine. And that ruined a lot of tattoos. That is the wrong way
Some things
to
need
do
bruise.
body art.
Yeah.
Bigger is better, and simpler makes a bolder point at times.
Yeah.
In your case, the one that keeps getting me is I can't imagine having spent the time and money and the pain and the time spent sitting there just having someone grind away on my legs. I can't imagine having that experience and then just washing over it.
Well,
That's a bold move.
I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand because I think a lot of people, like, because I used to say this myself, and I said it in, I think it was a couple of weeks ago on a podcast, that I don't really collect things. I collected tattoos, right?
Yep.
So instead of me getting some action figures and putting them on a shelf or like some old stuff that I have from my childhood, I would get a memory of that tattoo.
Yeah,
Like I had a Blackwork candy cane, which is my favorite. I do it as a quiz on Instagram. One of these is a tattoo I've had before, and it's always the one no one picks. It's a Blackwork candy cane on my ankle. And it's always like, what? You had a Blackwork candy cane? I'm like, yeah, it was a black and white striped candy cane on my ankle, and it was for two pets, my first dog and my first cat. Because one was candy and one was cane, right? And so I would say that for years that I would collect tattoos, and even from different artists, I had all kinds of stuff, and it all cobbled it all together in a way that worked, right? That design sense. Because even though I had so many artists working on me, I was the puppeteer of it all. Like at the end, I was pulling the strings, pulling it together. That's why
you're still creating your own canvas.
Right, and it almost looked like everyone was working together, even though that wasn't how it was.
Yes.
Like it was very much, even some artists that didn't like each other were working on me at the same time. So for it to come together in a good way had a lot to do with me knowing what I wanted where. So when we talk about why I got rid of all that stuff, this was on another earlier podcast. We were talking about how I got that suit finally finished at a much later point in my life than I expected to or wanted to. And I had the vision for a long time of how it would come to be. And then it was almost more like fulfilling a commitment to myself. Like, I'm carrying out this mission statement. All these things were, not all of them were ordained, or like I didn't know exactly how it was going to be, but it was like pretty close to a science I was carrying out. Like, these things will go this way.
I have a saying I like to point at in times like this. Our success is measured by the things we finish. So your personal measure of success in this case was kind of measured a little bit by saying, no, this is something that I want to complete. This is a work I want to finish.
Well, another part of it is a lot of people can't see the fine details in a picture on Instagram. And a lot of people are never going to be up close on me. So if you were up close on me, and even right now you are, there's things that need work. Like, when I got to the end of that torso, as I can imagine lots of people, when they get to the end of a bodysuit, they see flaws all over the place. And some people are terrified to fix it because it's like, you know what? It's good enough.
Yeah, once you start fixing it.
Right, because then you're fixing everything. Right, and so I had so many problems in some parts of my work that were like, I was honestly a little bit like sick thinking about going into it again and doing it again, because some of my torso was lined like 3 times.
Yeah, especially the tender areas.
Oh,
good Lord.
Good God. And all of it was line work. I had like line work tentacles everywhere, and some of it was little fine one-liners and these small circles everywhere.
It sounds like a lot of bad choices.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of learning on the artist's part. Like, the guy who did it, and no shade, but had never worked on a project that big at all. And sometimes I would take my shirt off to we get to work, and he'd just look at. He almost looked like stunned by, like, how am I gonna carry on with this? Like, it was like looking at this, like, and then getting dizzy, like, oh God, what are we gonna do this time? Like, oh, what do I got myself in? Hey, you just want to chat for a bit? Like,
just immediately buried under.
Right, like, and then it was 2 hours before we get to work, and then you pull like 3 lines, and then it's a break, and then we're doing little circles for hours, and you get like this much done, and then you go home, and like it was a lot of stuff like that.
This almost circles back to our apprenticeship chat, where it's so important to support your local apprentices. It's super important to get work done by someone new who's still building their skills. But it's also important to say that a cheaper artist is rarely cheaper. So, especially when you start considering the time and the extra pain you have to invest to get their art, including extra touch-ups and maybe reworks.
Yeah, the extra pain is what you pay, and you don't get that tattoo cheaper. You get a lot more pain.
That's it.
This is it. People think like, oh, you know, tattoo is a tattoo. Oh God, no. Like,
hard no, bud.
Because the funny thing is about it is, if I'm being completely honest, Rick is like the Terminator. Like, he just, there's no emotion to it. It's just grind, grind, grind. You could be like crying and he would barely notice.
That's right.
And I like that approach. I'm not, no shade. And same with Lee. Lee is different. Like, he's got an emotional approach, but he's a friggin' savage.
That's right.
Like, he's just raking you.
Yes.
Like, it's just...
he's working you a lot harder than Ricky is.
Yeah.
But he has much more emotion.
It's much more frantic and all over the place, and Rick is just like a straight-ahead sniper. Like, it's just like...
But that methodical, as much as it's very effective and serves a very good purpose, that methodical almost feels worse at times.
You can't distract as much, I find. I find with Rick, I've been more in the process than I was with Lee, because there was so much, there was almost theatrics when I was getting tattooed with Lee, where it's like a huge dramatic production is happening. Yeah. Like, there's a mess of black ink, and like he's telling jokes, and like, you know,
it's a more classic tortured artist picture where you
like
picturing someone with getting paint on the ceiling, you know?
I always thought of that of Lee. He tattoos like a painter would. Like, it's like a very painterly approach. With Rick, it's like you've got the Terminator working on you. Now, with the other guy that was doing my torso, he had a really soft hand, which at first I was like, oh, well, that seems good at times. Seems good at times, right? But the problem is, that soft tan doesn't feel so soft when it's the third or fourth pass.
Third or fourth pass, exactly.
And the line is still not really there. And then you're going for touch-ups all the time. And then the areas are scarred because they've been dug in or whatever. But the other problem with we were talking about Apprentice and supporting your local apprentices. This guy was telling people he had been tattooing for a lot longer than he was.
Right.
And I knew he was new, but I had heard him give the speech before. Like, he would never say, so it was a funny line where it was like, he never said, I've been tattooing for 20 years. He would say, I've been an artist for 20 years. But it was like, people will assume when they hear that you've been a tattoo artist for 20 years. And then when you're an older guy to begin with, and you have that old school tattooer look, it's easy for people to believe, oh yeah, this guy knows his stuff, right?
Yeah.
But thankfully, since my torso, I actually haven't seen, and I don't know if it's just that they don't post much, but I haven't seen any other giant scale work like that. So I think maybe that was like enough for him, maybe forever. Where it's like,
sometimes you get in over your head and you learn a lesson.
Yeah.
It's pretty important at times.
Yeah. So to get back to not being up close on work, people see my old torso and they're like, it was so good. And why did you get rid of it? I'm like, okay, because it wasn't so good. Like it had a cool look, but there was so many problems. Like the shading was barely in half of the tentacles. The lines were like fading away after a year. Like some of the circles were falling apart. There's this big ugly star down here that I did when I was like 19 that I just didn't know what the hell to do with, right? Like there was a lot of stuff in there that it was just like, how am I ever gonna like figure this out? And then I was getting to the end of my right arm blackout, my left arm blackout, I should say, this one here, and I was like, okay, I want to do my torso. Like I got to fix my torso now. And I was going to do it all with Rick because Rick has a similar style, but he can execute it better.
Yes.
But then I started thinking about how many sessions it would take to bring it back, and it was like, and
Wait
then even if I did bring it back, would it look better than it would look blacked out? Because I've already got so much blackout work at that point. And it was a lot of like weighing my options. Like, is this really worth doing if one day I might want to black it out anyway? And then I'm going through 3 times as much pain, because one thing I will say about blackout is it's a lot faster than all those little lines were. Like my second torso took a fraction of the time. Me and Lee banged out my stomach and ribs in like 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and it's not like, oh, I was just hurrying and so I did it. Well, if I didn't like blackout, I wouldn't have done it. But it was a hell of a lot faster than it would have been to struggle to try and put those tentacles back together.
And it feels good just covering ground sometimes.
Yeah. And that's part of why I think I got some tattoos to begin with.
Of course.
It was just like,
we're all guilty of it.
It's like, okay, well, I want a tattoo. Okay, what do I want?
That's a dangerous but beautiful line to walk down.
Right.
And when people say that tattoos are addictive, I believe that's actually what they're referring to. What they're referring to is, well, I got these other couple of tattoos, and now there's a fucking hole right here that I need to fill up.
Filler tattoos.
What goes there?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what people mean when they say tattoo addiction.
Right. The problem with that is when you're younger, and not just younger, but younger into tattooing, you don't have... A lot of the times you don't have a vision for how your whole body will look. And you think, oh, I'll just get a few tattoos, right?
Yeah.
And so you just get these pieces that are just in sections, but they don't have any way of attaching to things.
Yeah.
So then it's like you'll have like a piece like this size on your shin, and it's on a weird angle or something. And then you got an artist going, now you've got 5 of these, and it's like, okay, how am I going to connect this? And then you're both scratching your head, and it's like, well, let's do some wind bars or like some fire or something. It's like, what does that mean? What does the fire mean? Because like I get people are always like, what does a blackout mean? It's like, you've got some pretty weird like stuff connecting all your work together there, like some weird dots and wind bars and fire and stuff. It's like, Does that have some meaning to you, or were you just trying to fill space?
This leg's an excellent example of that.
Yeah, and I had that too.
Oh, of course.
I had bats and Dragon Balls.
I've got a little bit of a tribal sun in there from my early stick and poke days. There's Star Wars stuff. There's traditional stuff.
Yeah.
It all just fits in as you're going, well, now that we're here, what's the next step?
Yeah, and then, so when you said earlier, it's been hard for you to get your mind around going through the pain, paying the money, having those experiences, and then going, I'm done with all that.
Yep.
Right. And because it's such a, I think, because I felt that way one time too.
Of course.
I seen a guy walking around town here when I had my first, I didn't have my full first suit. I was well into working on it. And I seen this guy walk by me, and he had 2 black sleeves. And you almost never see it.
No,
and I was just like,
rarely.
and I'll be a hypocrite here. I was like, what a waste of space.
Yep.
I said that.
Well, because it's a natural feeling, and it's not until a certain point in your tattoo evolution before you start saying, that could work for me.
Yeah, and then now I've gotten farther in, and I'm like, I don't feel bad about saying that but I didn't ever said it to him, right?
Well, of
it was
course.
just my thought.
Yeah.
I never said it to anyone, but it was what I thought, and I'm thinking like, how much of life is like that, like where you don't know why that person did that, and so I think it's fine to think that kind of stuff, but I'm not going on my way to attack someone for.
Hopefully not.
Right? Like, what if the guy had pink sleeves? You know what I mean? Like, would it be any different?
No, that's balls.
There's a guy that I've seen on Instagram. I don't follow him, but I've seen him pop up now and then. Even on blackout tattoo pages, I've seen him pop up. His whole body is blue. Like, and he's just the sweetest looking guy, too. Like, he's got a blue face. He's a redhead.
I have never thought of that before.
He looks a bit like, I can't remember his name, but he looks a little like a real life Smurf.
Huh.
But he's just doing his thing. Like, I think he's a welder or something, and he's got a family, and he's just existing. Like,
I'm so impressed.
And it's pretty solid too. Like, he's still working on some places that are a little bit lighter, or some places that went a little green. But
with any solid blocks of color like that, you're always going to be working on it.
Yeah,
like that's going to be a constant upkeep.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that myself, where like, even this year, my skin has lightened up over last year a bit, and I'm not really worried about it. But it is something where, if you want to do full saturation everywhere, you're in for a lifetime of work.
Oh,
it's like people will be, I can't wait to see your finished suit. I'm like, how long till you're done? I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever done. Like, done? Where is done? Like, I'll be thousands of hours in by the end at the rate I'm going. I can't even imagine being done.
Well, at least you're kind of working a little bit symmetrically back and forth across your body, so that your legs get done in the same time, your arms get done in the same time. Yeah. So at year 3, at year 5, at least the 2 sides of your body have aged similarly.
Well, once I've gotten the legs finished, like fully, finally, it's gonna be light work. Like, it's just gonna be like gardening almost, where it's like, this is a little weak, I need to touch this up. Hey, this is a little weak, I need to touch, and then it'll be really relaxing for me.
Yeah.
Like today, I've got a really easy, in my opinion, one. We're just touching this up, because like everybody keeps screaming at me, you're not getting rid of your chest piece, are you? Whatever. Like, when I got rid of these skulls, there's like this uproar, like, of how far is it gonna go? Where's the line? And I'm like, you followed a guy who's blacking himself out.
Yeah.
Like, you followed this guy, and you're surprised.
You can't criticize me
Well, you can criticize me, but you can't be surprised when I black out something else. Like, it's the wackiest thing, where it's like, I like you like this. This is where you stay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but you followed a guy who's clearly been changing for the last 2 years rapidly, and then
dance, puppet, dance.
I don't even mind if you unfollow or whatever. Like, I like that it's kind of polarizing. I've been enjoyed on a kind of meta level. It's been really, like you said, it's been hard for people to understand various parts of it, and I kind of enjoy. I can't take myself out of it. I do get offended sometimes, because I'm human.
Sure.
Right? It's like the kid who's like, I got bullied at school, but I felt bad for the bully because his life must suck. It's like, no, come on. Like, you're not that You're not that godly. Like,
you're not that goddamn present.
Like you can be pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get a little bit detached from the reactions because I get them so many. Like there's so much of it.
Yeah.
So you kind of like whatever. I've heard this line before. I've seen this before. But like sometimes you'll get it where it's like you really can't understand how this is a surprise because it's been this way for a while now. I don't think I've looked the same for more than a month. You know, it's and even like I'll be bald sometimes. Sometimes I got my hair colored one way. Like I had a whole bunch more piercings at one point. And I've stretched this lip so much. My nose has gotten huge. Like it's everything about me is always changing.
It's in flux.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a surprise, or else what? Like, why are you following this guy? Go follow someone who's just got a suit finished and they're living with it.
Yeah, right.
So that's not what I'm offering, right?
At the same time now, I think it's pretty cool that as you eliminate the visible tattoos, because the old ones are obviously still there.
Yeah.
All the old tattoos didn't go anywhere. They just also have black in them now. But the ones that don't have the solid black work in them, on them, whatever you want to say, they're almost novelty now.
Yeah.
It's now like, oh, here's the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 tattoos that are still visible.
Well,
And it has as much novelty as that university girl who's saying, how many tattoos do you have? I have 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I can say that too. Well, I've got either one big one or I've got like 6. Like, you know what I mean? Like there aren't that many anymore, but they're all pretty big.
Yeah.
But what I've got left, I would like to, if I can't make them as good as I can, then they'll eventually be gone. So like today, we're working on this chest piece, and I want to make this much darker if I can. Like Rick did a great job on it, but it was 11 years ago. It hasn't had any touch-ups.
Really?
None. And
I know the teeth have. I've seen them touched up.
See, those were done by the other guy.
Yeah.
And they're scarred up.
Oh, good.
They bleed as soon as you touch them. Like
How fun.
I've had them touched up 4 times.
And it's the most sensitive spot.
It's very, very horrible. Like those teeth aren't what I want them to be. Like it's a real problem for me because I want to keep that eye. I do.
Yes.
And I don't want to get rid of it because it's such an iconic piece for me. Like it's become like a figurehead of my Instagram where it's like, oh, that eye. Oh, people make all these associations to it. Some woman messaged me the other day with some ancient evil eye paragraph thing, like where it's like, okay, that's not what it is for me, but people have all kinds of interpretations of it.
People make that connection.
Someone's like, I really love your nightmare eye. I'm like, it's not, but that's cool. Like,
yeah, neat, thanks.
There's all kinds of those, so it's like, I really want to keep this eye for as long as I can or forever or whatever.
Yep.
But once work is so scarred and it's not put in properly to begin with, it's really hard to fix it.
Once that black is in there, it's hard to take it out again, you know?
Well, we've done white highlights.
Yep.
We've done different, like, because they were done with yellow in them. So we're trying to go over yellow to try and take the yellow out.
But you can add all you want to that tattoo, but unless you're in there getting laser, you're not taking anything out.
Yeah, and it's getting to the point now where, like the last time Rick, he did the teeth, like they were bleeding immediately, which I don't bleed very fast.
Yeah.
Like, I usually don't bleed much to begin with, but the teeth were like, they were all chewed up, and like you could feel it was almost like Braille after he tattooed it, where it's so scarred. And I was looking at them, and I'm like, you know what? They don't even look that much better either.
That's like, exactly what I'm trying to say. Cover-ups are this real tricky business where if you're trying to fix up an old tattoo, like remember, if it's too dark, it's not getting any less dark. Doesn't matter how much white you put here, it's still going to have that dark shade behind it.
The eye itself has gone through 3-4 touch-ups too, because at first it was all the color fell out. We put in
all
orange, yellow, pink, red, all this shit stacked on top. The original artist who did it was just like color, and like all of it just kind of melted off, and it was just like this pale, like disgusting.
Have you ever thought maybe you're just the Terminator?
Maybe
that could be it.
It's possible. Right?
I've got a hunch, you know.
Like I might be the Terminator, but then he redid all the color, and it didn't really work. So then we did one final touch up on it with him, and it looked a little better. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
fine.
Ground covered, walk away.
So then a year and a half later, Lee changed it.
Yeah.
He made it brighter. And then last year, Rick made it darker again. Like he put in more black. So we put in more red with Lee, and then we put in more black. So this eye has been done 5 times. And it's like just straight in this core area, right?
I don't love it.
And yeah, it's not pleasant. But
my chest took me 3.5 hours, and it's not really the design I wanted. The artist went a little bit different direction than I was hoping for with it. But he's a really solid tattooer, and he got that ink in there. It'll never need work again.
right.
You know that I might change the background some, but the actual tattoo itself, stylistically, not my favorite, but it's a well-executed tattoo,
Right. Yep.
and it's going to stay just like that.
And that's, like I said about this chest piece, I don't need to touch it up probably
That's
ever.
right. That's
like
right.
a lot of the stuff that I'll fix up, I don't really need to. So like this would be perfect. But the only problem with it is next to all the solid black, I'm feeling like it's not as punchy as it could be.
Sure.
So I would like to try and put a little bit more black in there to make the skulls stand a little stronger against the like constant sea of black everywhere
Yes.
around it.
Yes.
Where it's just like this piece, I don't want it getting lost
Yeah.
because I do want to keep it. It's my favorite tattoo.
That one's not had a touch-up in 11 years.
It has not had a touch up in 11 years.
That's the value of going to an experienced artist.
And this is
because it still looks very sharp.
like Rick was much younger into his career then than he is now.
Yes.
So imagine now doing it. I'm sure it'd even be better, right?
Well, you can see how he works for the healed product.
Yeah, he doesn't like doing a lot of backtracking.
That's the thing. He's not one of these guys just trying to get a picture and get you out the door. He'll tattoo his work, and it'll look better in 5 years than it did the day of.
Yeah,
That's one of the things that just blows my mind.
yeah. It's even with my leg blackout. Like, I think because I assumed that we were going to need to do 4 or 5 sessions of touch-ups at the end. I think it's going to be 1 or 2 touch-ups, and that's for both legs.
Yeah,
Because there's just
incredible.
these little streaks here or there, and we're on one pass, and there's old work under there, and some of it was chewed up. Like because so many of my leg tattoos were Apprentice tattoos, and like not even just Apprentice tattoos, but sometimes just not good tattoo artist tattoos, where it's like
I've got lots of those.
yeah, where they've been going for a while, but they haven't done many good tattoos in their life, kind of thing. And so you're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? I'll put this random one here.
Well, that comes back to our apprenticeship conversation, where if you learn from somebody who spent 20 years in the industry, that is not very valuable if they spent 20 years putting out crap tattoos.
Yeah, 20 years is good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, like this, even at my job, you can be a cook for your whole life and still be horrible.
That's right.
We had an old man that I worked with a couple years back, and you couldn't give him any kind of criticism ever, or like tell him any advice. Because
Well, he's gonna throw that seniority back in your
for
face.
40 years. Who are you to tell me? It's like you've been buttering bread for 40 years.
Yeah.
Like you have never led a line in your life, and you never will. But you've been around a long time.
Yep.
Right. So you could be senior at anything and not great at anything.
That's
right?
exactly right.
It's the kind of thing that 20 years can be spent in multiple ways. Because you could, in your first year, learn more than you could learn in 10 years. Right?
Actually, this loops really well back to our apprenticeship conversation, because that is exactly how it is in the tattoo industry, where after I came back from Cambodia, I did go to one of the lowest end shops in town. Obviously, the demand for apprentices isn't always high. There's not always an opening. So I stumbled into this apprenticeship in a really low end shop.
Yeah.
Again, learning from somebody who's been tattooing for 20 years, but very poorly. Still doing some really poor work. He probably does 4 touch-ups a week.
Oh.
I've done 1 touch-up in the last year.
Yeah.
He's doing 4 a week. And that's not a brag. That's simply saying that that's where his work is after 20 years. And I spent 1.5 years in that shop.
Yeah.
And probably, compared to an apprentice that works with Rocky Mountain Tattoo, in that 1.5 years, I made about 4 months worth of progress. So really, it slowed me down.
Yeah.
And then I finally did move over to Rocky Mountain, learned from some real professionals who, A, can see the difference between a good tattoo and a bad tattoo, and B, are using professional techniques to get good tattoos consistently.
Right.
All of a sudden, in the last 6 months at Rocky Mountain, I've had to relearn everything I've ever known about tattooing. And wouldn't you know it, suddenly I'm on track making that progress that you would expect to see.
I've even seen your work has gotten better even the time I've known you. And that, there's some shops where you see people apprentice there and they don't ever get any better.
Yep.
And it's like, what is happening here? Because I'm a layman. Not a layman. I guess in some ways I know more than some artists
basically
might
in the industry now.
But I'm looking at their work and I'm like, why is this not getting better? It's getting worse.
The thing.
Not only are they not getting better at tattooing, it's like they're indulging in the badness because it's like they're getting praised for the wrong things.
Exactly.
And then the work just keeps it's getting bigger and it's getting more colors, but none of the application is getting better. So okay, you've been working on little tattoos. Now we're going to give you some big stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's just big and bad now. It's not
just big and bad.
It would have been better if it was good and small.
That is exactly it.
But now you've gone bigger, and now you're doing full back pieces, and you shouldn't even be doing tiny tattoos at that pace. I've seen some stuff where it's like, oh, and that person is when they go to fix that it's going to be. Have you seen my friend Jeremy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here's what we can do for you.
I have a line for that. I ask, do you like bowling?
Yeah.
Because so many times someone walks in for their cover-up, and I'm saying a giant black bowling ball would be just about right for your left arm.
It's just about all you can do sometimes.
Sometimes.
Unless you're you really, how colors go in, color theory, and then maybe you can work something out. But if you've got this big, terrible black piece by a guy who has no idea what he's doing, and he's just using every color in the book, and it's like, it looks like an elaborate painting done by a child. It's like, how are you going to fix that?
So, all too often I hear, oh, anything can be fixed, or anything can be covered. Yes, but how do you find a good, skilled artist that's going to cover that or fix it up properly?
Right.
Good skilled artists are often busy making nice art on fresh, clean skin and convincing them to slow down enough to fix your giant abortion.
Yeah. What's in it for them?
They're not interested, man.
Yeah, what's in it for them is always what I wonder, because they could get the same money for someone else. So what do you have to charge, a higher rate or something?
They can get the same money to produce a big, beautiful piece of art that advances their career.
Yeah, which is less of a headache.
Less of a headache.
And it's probably going to look better.
And it's a success for them.
Yeah.
It's a success. They can post that on social media. They can stand back and say they're proud of that.
Yeah.
To fix your giant schmortion, they're not going to be proud of that.
Yeah.
They're going to fix it. They're going to make it better, but they're not going to post it.
Like I say,
they're not going to be proud of it.
Some of these younger artists, and not even some of them are older artists, where it's like they've been told that this is good, and they've been getting praised for doing the wrong things because it. Like a lot of people will look at a bad tattoo and they won't even know it's bad tattoo. It'll be imagery that they like. It'll be something iconic, right? Like, okay, so for example, my Frankenstein tattoo. It was a great tattoo. Nothing against that. But it wasn't because it was a good tattoo that people liked it. It was because it was an iconic image.
Exactly.
So that Frankenstein had been crappy or terribly done. People still have an attachment to Frankenstein.
That's exactly right.
I had another guy over here that no one knew who the hell this tattoo was. It was another portrait, and nobody had any kind of a reaction to it being covered. It was like, oh, whatever, he's just doing more blackout, right? And it was the same quality by the same artist.
Yep.
So when I'm blacking out the Frankenstein, I had people crying emoji reactions and messaging me rip Karloff, right? Like the actor who played Frankenstein's name was Boris Karloff or something anyway. People are all angry, how could you take out Frankenstein? Poor Frankenstein's monster. They had a really emotional reaction to it. It was really polarizing. I lost quite a few followers for it. It was
wow.
It was
They
really
created an emotional connection to an image of something on your skin.
It wasn't. There was no one who said, "Oh, it was so well done." There was nothing like that. It was always, how could you get rid of Frankenstein?
Right.
And it's it mattered more what the subject matter was than the quality. So with these big, ugly poorly executed tattoos, sometimes there'll be a giant lion face.
That's
with flowers and
all
shit.
too often. I've seen just a wolf with this big, like 11-liner line through it, and there's no lines in a real wolf if you ever look at one.
Yeah.
Unless you're stylizing one, which of course a poor artist is not likely to stylize something well. So you'll see this big wolf in their shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like big linered in there. The eyes are just big lines. And then a bunch of just kind of like circular mag shading. They got out their 9 or 11 mag and just started doing circles with a light wash. And now it's just a big gray schmoopy thing.
It's just a big gray mess that doesn't have any room to breathe.
And then their wife or their friend will show up to pick them up and go, wow, cool wolf, man.
Yeah, I see it all the time. And I'll see people commenting like, oh, that's amazing. And it's like, it's barely in there, and it has no room to breathe.
It's going to fall out. It looks like it was drawn by a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I don't understand what's happening here.
There's no technical artistry been applied to the design itself whatsoever.
Right, and so this is where I have a hard time with people often when they're criticizing my work. Like, they're like, that's terrible. Like, it's just black, right? Again, with just black, or, well, there's no art in that. And it's like, yeah, but it's put in properly. Like, there's been a lot of work gone to making sure it looks good.
And you're supporting artists who have the years of experience and consistently produce good tattoos. These are real professionals that you're working with.
Yeah, and I had a girl she was just visiting the shop, and she's a nice girl, but she tried to do some blackout on my arm, and we were working 4.5 hours on my wrist, and we got no saturation at the end. In fact, it was like this big gray mess with like spots of black.
I've got a hunch I know who that artist is, and I have a few of her old clients now that I'm working on.
It's just like, this solid saturation did not work for you. And it was a lot of pain for me. And it was, again, one of those appointments that started out easy. Yeah. Like, it started out like, oh, you've got a light touch. And then by the end of it, it's like, yeah, my arm's on fire now. Because it's like, and I can sit through hell. Like, I can sit there
I've seen you. I've seen you do it.
There was like this weird language barrier there too, where I was like, I can't tell you this, but you're overworking my skin. Yes. And where with another apprentice artist that I had work, he did a big bad on my upper thigh here, and I was able to communicate to him that, hey man, like, that area's been shaded for 45 minutes, and it's time to move on. And it's funny being the guy getting tattooed, telling another person that, because you feel like I said earlier, you don't tell the electrician how to do electrician work, right? But sometimes when you've been tattooed,
when it's your body,
when you've been tattooed for hundreds of hours too by multiple artists, you kind of start understanding when you're being overworked, where you're like, okay, that everything you're doing now is not going to be profitable. Like, it's you're losing,
working backwards.
You're losing more than you're gaining by adding
it.
Because
that's it.
This work isn't going to heal well now, and we're just going in circles. We're spinning our wheels. And then at the end of it, it was a pretty decent tattoo, but sometimes you put in too much and there's no room to breathe. Like, there's no negative space in that.
Yep.
And it's just so murky. I still think it's actually not even close to my least favorite tattoo I've ever had. Like, I'm kind of like, I'm halfway blacked it out now. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm waving out like, oh, I'll miss you, little guy.
That's it. That's
right.
It.
Like, I don't.
Some of those less than ideal experiences still form a somewhat emotional connection to us.
Oh yeah.
It's still an experience that we value greatly. Yeah. You know, I've got some tattoos that went kind of bad, had a funny time, that I'm still deeply attached to. And that actually kind of loops right back around again to our sketchy artist commentary. Yeah. Because the reason someone's going, wow, incredible wolf, is because they have nothing to compare it to. And B, that time sitting there in that chair getting poked at by that artist, they still built up the same dopamine release. They still built up that same emotional connection to that art.
It's like, I have almost no attachment to that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I've like, where you said it's hard to understand sitting through all the pain of it and like getting that image and then covering it up. It's like, the approach has changed for me majorly. And like, it's now almost like going to the gym. Yep. I'm just working out in a way. Yeah. Like I said to Kevin the other week, when I wasn't getting tattooed during COVID, I felt like I was on the couch eating Cheetos and sweatpants. Like I see it more about working on my piece. I am the piece now. I'm not. It's not even because at one point it was about I want cool new pieces. I want stickers and I want big guys and I want a little bit of every style. And I had a real. My legs were a smorgasbord, right? It was like I got black and gray traditional portrait here. I got a horror portrait over here. I got like I had 8-bit like old school Final Fantasy characters, and
I really like those ones. They were done really well.
Oh yeah, they were really cool, and 4.5 hours for each one.
Yes, because you're doing that particular little
funny,
detail.
Because people see them and they're like this big. It's like, oh, that must have taken a half an hour. No, over 4 hours. Each square was lined. Each square was filled with a different color, and there was actually like 16 colors in each one. And you have to do it by the box.
You sure do.
So those were actually some of the longest running tattoos I had. The longest I ever did was I had these roses were originally red. Now they're black and white, which was complicated.
Yeah, I imagine.
Thanks to Lee for pulling that off. But they were done red. It took 9.5 hours because the artist I was working with was quite slow.
We did slow's not bad, but it hurts more.
Well, by the end of it, I wasn't in wailing agony. I was just tired and ready to go home. Like I was like, I want to go to sleep. But we did the first one in 5 hours, and it was like, okay, the next one should be faster. Now I figured this out, and then it took 4.5 hours for the next one. So it's like. It was faster, but how much faster is anyone's guess.
That's exactly it.
But I don't have the attachment to the dopamine release and the experience anymore so much. Because it's just become like taking out the trash almost.
Well, it's the same concept if you are a skydiving instructor. You no longer have that same release each time. I've been skydiving one time in my entire life, and I can still remember the vitality. I can still remember that rush. If I was doing it every single day, I wouldn't have that memory connected to each individual time I've gone skydiving when I've gone 20 times a week. It would become more habitual. My relationship with it would deepen. It would change over time, but my connection to each individual experience would not be the same, not be as profound.
It becomes more of a way of life.
Habitual.
Right, and this is where we're talking about tattoos as an addiction. Well, you could consider me full-blown addicted to
You're the skydive instructor of getting tattoos.
Pretty much, like, and I have legitimate fear over what I do when I'm done, which is why it's not actually a bother to me that I'll always be working on things. Like I'll always have to touch things up because like that's more of a comfort or a blanket for me, where it's like. Well, at least I'll always have something on the go. Because like I was telling Kevin, like, even when I'm done this, I'm going to have something booked at the shop always. Because if I don't, I might go stir crazy.
That's it.
Because like when I was off during COVID, it was like, I was going nuts. Like, okay, let's stretch my conscious. Let's do this. I get some progression that I get.
That's right.
Right. And I want to transfer that energy into working out. I want to be in better shape. But it doesn't.
We all?
It's close to the same, but it's not exactly. So I think it stimulates the same part of the brain for progression, but because I've made such an attachment to changing like piercings and tattoos way from an early age, it's always got to be involved with that.
And body mod is so much different from working out in a sense. Like I'm the kind of guy I can work out hard for 6 months. I stop for a month. The changes are gone.
It's
like I'll gain
permanent.
10, 15 pounds of muscle. I stop for 2 months. I'm back to my exact baseline, exactly where I was before. No change. Whereas body mod is more like
permanent.
More like that guy building a car in his garage, building a classic sports car. He's going to spend 15 years hobbying and tinkering on it, sitting out there in his spare time building it. Once he's done, he knows he's not going to start another car. He's just done now. So the last 10% of that project, he might really slow down and stretch it out because same as you, he's fearing seeing the end in sight on that car.
And this is where, again, I've had different reactions from different people. from people with no tattoos to people with a few tattoos to people with full body suits. And sometimes those are the people that I struggle the most with to make it make sense, because I think for them it's like once it's done, and there's not to be any more, you know. And people would assume that the people with full body suits, from the outside, you would assume that person would be more accommodating or understanding about the direction I've taken.
Right.
But they sometimes see me as almost like blaspheming, or like,
Well, they've put a flag in Everest.
yeah,
And say, I did it.
yeah,
When your quest is different. The end is not determinable like that.
no, it's just I see other people and I feel like I'm infant still. Like, and I don't ever know that I want to be as far along as some people are. Like, I see some people who are too much for me. Like, I know a guy named well, I've seen him, I don't know him, but the Black Alien Project. And fair enough, do you? I don't judge anyone, but he's got full black face and he's got horns and stuff like this. And I'm not judging, right? But that's too far for me.
You can't judge, but it's a weird time to go blackface.
It is a weird time to go blackface. There's never been a worse time.
There's not been a worse time.
Even right now, I get both sides of the token. It's bizarre, but I get some people who think I am doing it in support of black people, and some people who think that I'm doing it against, and everything in between. And it's got nothing to do with any of that.
That's right.
Okay, it's just I'm just like almost sitting on the sidelines watching these reactions sometimes, where it's like,
no, this is about tattooing.
Yeah,
I support people and their struggles.
Yeah,
but this thing is about the tattooing of it all.
And it's always weird, like rich white people who make these connections too. Like it's almost like I actually have a pretty, I wouldn't say we're good friends, but we talked a lot on Instagram. He's Julie Esteban, I think is his handle, and he's got a lot of blackout on him, and he's a African American guy, right? And like it's never been weird. We just chat. Like there's no. He thinks it's strange when people think this is racist or something.
Yeah.
And
but that's because once you've gotten into the tattoo world or played with blackout, you know it has nothing to do with race or skin color. It's entirely to do with tattooing and body modification.
Well, and anyone who sat for big work begins to see it more like they understand the pain and the commitment.
The long-term change you're making.
Right, and then the dedication to the vision of it. Because when you start and you've just got this one part of your arm blacked out, it's like, well, what is that? Like, it's just this one piece, and everything else is normal. And it's like, yeah, but you see me in 2 years. You know, you have to have such vision for it. Even when we started my legs, it was just like this piece of black on my ankle.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that looks terrible. And I even had people like, it looks like shit. Why would you do that? It's like, well, there's a goal to this, and you can't get there in one day. And if you try and get there in one day, you might lose your leg. Like, you might have to take it off.
You're going to have a bad time.
It's going to be horrible. I know some people who have been like, hey, how much for a whole black sleeve? Like, I'm going to go in and give this guy $2,000. I'm going to walk out with a finished black arm. I'm like, yeah, you might be in the hospital at the end of it, too.
That's a lot of trauma. That's a bloody ton of trauma.
Prepare for a bad day.
Bad month.
I don't know if you want to do that. You think you want it over and done with, and everyone thinks they're Superman before they get there.
That's right.
And then they start raking you with that mag.
And then an hour and a half in, are we done yet?
Yeah.
Can I go now?
Yeah, people are always shocked when it's like, how long did that session take? I'm like, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I'm actually continuing some blackout work for a lady right now. And she had started with a different artist. Yeah. And he had done a quote for her. Yeah, I'll do the whole arm. It'll be 4 hours. Here's your price.
Oh.
She walked in. She sat down. At 1 hour, she tapped out and walked away.
Yeah, that's... People think it's going to be easier or something. Like, it's...
Hard no.
Everyone always thinks it's going to be horrible, but I'm strong.
Yeah.
Like, I know me. I'm tough. I can handle that.
Which, yes and yes.
Yeah.
But how strong? How horrible?
Well, having gone... So the longest blackout session I've ever had, personally, was 4.5 hours. and it was with Lee, so it felt like 8 hours.
Yeah, of course.
It covers so much ground.
He's moving fast and he's moving hard.
We did like the whole side of my rib up into my armpit.
Mm-hmm.
The armpit had already been done, but we hit it while we were there.
Why such a long session in such a terrible area?
Because at the time we knew Lee was going to Kelowna.
Right.
But he was, and that wasn't all we did. We did the whole arm again too. We like blacked the whole thing over because it was you need to do touch-ups on black work, right? So we just skimmed everything from start to finish.
I'm not jealous.
Tore this whole region up into my armpit, ribs, side of my stomach, all through here, and 4.5 hours. But yeah, we felt like we were up against time constraints because he was going to be moving to Kelowna.
Naturally.
And we thought he was going to be moving a lot sooner than he was. Like, it was like originally, I think his plan was September of last year.
Wow.
So we were like, okay, we really need to get this done. So sometimes it was brutal sessions like that where I went home and, I threw up that day.
I bet you did.
I was never more ill.
I'd be surprised if you didn't.
I was never more ill immediately after a session. Like, I've had infection before, twice.
Yeah.
And then I was definitely sick. But those tattoos healed fine. So it was just the trauma of the event.
You'd walk out there with a shake after that, probably.
Oh yeah, I was pale. I could barely stand, and I didn't want anything to touch me. I've got animals at home, and like they would move, and I was like, ugh. I was scared of everything.
You're actually in shock, probably.
Yeah. So
I need a chocolate bar and lay down with a blanket.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. You get really lightheaded.
Yeah.
It's like there was one time when Lee had an appointment after me in the morning, but they ended up canceling. So we would always work before the shop opens. So we did I think we blacked out my hand that day, and we did from like here to here in like at 45 minutes an hour. And then I went home, and then he goes, "Hey, my next guy, he called in. Do you want to come back and we can do some more stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, sure, sounds good to me. Like, I don't care. I'll get some more done." So then we did another 2 hours, and we did like up here, but still when I was blacking things out on this arm. And that was another day where I was sick afterwards.
Any good physician would be upset with you.
Yeah, I was sick afterwards, physically sick. And it wasn't because I had an infection or anything. It's just the body was like just destroyed.
You're literally pushing your body into a different state where it does not think it's okay.
And yeah, it's one of those things where you think mentally, yeah, I can handle this, but sometimes your body can't keep pace.
I had a full pass out about a week and a half ago.
Oh yeah?
Do you want to hear the story?
Sure,
It was a good time?
Of course.
So, right over here, we were tattooing a really lovely sunburst through forest Excalibur piece on the back of this guy's calf.
Yeah.
We tattooed for about 3.5, 4 hours straight, took a couple small breaks, no problem. He sat like a champ, no involuntary twitches, no squirming, nothing. We got up, we went outside, we took pictures, we had all done white highlights, everything.
Yeah.
We're standing just about where you're sitting, maybe a little bit over there.
Right.
We got the bandage on, no problem. I see his foot shake a little bit while I'm bandaging him. I think it's just from the way he's standing. So I finish putting the bandage on, I peel the extra bits off, and I stand up.
Yeah.
As I stand up, I go to turn but catch motion out of my eye. And sure enough, he's starting to waver. He's starting to go down.
Yeah.
His hands are behind his back, and he's just going face first.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Craig, the artist who works at this station, was sitting right behind him and just happened to break his fall.
Right.
Because he went full sack of potatoes into the floor.
Quick.
Happened so quick, I had no chance of catching him. It was all Craig who caught him, and he's only out for about 15 seconds before he kind of was trying to sit up a little bit going, "Oh, what happened?"
Yeah.
He didn't even know why he was on the floor. So we made him stay there, recovery position, got him a can of Coke, and now I pay a little more attention in that 15-minute window after a big tattoo.
I seen it one time. I've only ever seen it one time myself. And all the time I've been at tattoo shops, but it was both funny and scary.
Yeah.
Like I felt like laughing, but at the same time, it's not funny.
It's a no harm, no foul situation.
But it was at another shop. It was really busy at the time. Like everybody's tattooing and whatever. And then there's this guy who's not. We'll say he wasn't in the best shape.
Yes.
Like he wasn't very you could tell he wouldn't take care of himself very well. And he's getting this giant dragon thing on his arm or whatever, and he's getting the lining done, and they're taking a break, and he's just kind of standing up, and I'm getting tattooed at the same time. I'm getting something on one of my legs, and I could see him out of the corner of my eye, and he's got this kind of queasy look on his face.
Kind of glazes a bit too.
Like either he's like kind of got this low leer in his eyes, and he started going a little green. And I motioned to the artist. I'm like, "Hey, is he feeling okay?" And the artist turns around, and the guy just goes to fall forward, like he's just like all of his weight is hanging in his stomach, and he's just dead weight. And he grabs him, and he's got him, and he's like, whoa, are you okay? And the guy's still, like, falling because he's a heavy-set guy.
So lucky.
And, yeah, he's just coming down like a sack of bricks. And he got him stable on a chair, and they're, like, going to go get him a bottle of water. And this guy starts trying to stand up again.
No, stay.
And he's like, no, man, you got to sit down. And then he's, like, drinking the water, and I see that same look again. And I'm like, that guy's going again. And so then he falls forward out of the chair, and his water bottle goes on the floor. And he's just spilled out over the floor. And I'm like, wow, that guy's not doing. Maybe that's it for the tattoo. For sure.
I think you're good for today.
Yeah, he's done. And they were only halfway through the lining. So I think physical shape sometimes has something to do with it.
So I meant to mention that in my story, actually. So the cautionary tale, as it were, of my full pass out story. Because my guy was quite in shape, actually.
Was he?
Yeah, he was physically fit, solid dude. The issue was he was a night worker.
Yeah.
So he had worked all night, gone home and slept for 2 hours, and then not eaten anything. So he was coming in underslept, overtired, physically exerted, with no food in his stomach.
Yeah.
Whereas if he had have had coffee and a bagel and some protein, he probably would have been just fine.
Right.
But to work all night, not get sufficient rest, and then come in without the sustenance to keep your body working you through that process, it's a shock he didn't pass out sooner.
Oh, for sure. Like I've had obviously years of experience. I've got my morning of getting tattooed pretty well fine-tuned to a ritual. I eat the same breakfast every day, and I do it every Wednesday morning. I don't like evening tattoos. Generally, but I have found it's strange. I don't like going in during the evening for a tattoo, but when I've been up longer, I feel like I don't feel the pain as much for some reason. I feel a little less connected. And I don't know what the hell that is, but I found in the morning when I'm more awake, I feel it more. And then, so sometimes I would, especially last year, me and Lee felt like we were up against time constraints. We weren't. I would come in for like a Sunday night appointment after the shop was closed, and I would be really tired, but I wouldn't feel the pain that much. Like it was like my senses were dulled. It's bizarre. I don't know what the science is, but I always felt like I was more detached even than I normally am, and I usually can get pretty detached right away. But even though I don't like it, I had one time where I had a full armpit session, and like we did some touch-ups here because you could still see the moon in the one armpit a little bit. So I was like, I really want that halo gone, so let's do the armpit for the third or fourth time or whatever the hell it was. And then we were tattooing my shoulder and stuff, and we weren't getting a lot of progress because it's kind of diminishing returns, black on black, right? But anyway, I barely felt any of it, and I didn't I'm not being a tough guy. I could just barely register the pain anymore, whereas like I'm just kind of tired and I just kind of want to go to bed.
Cool. That's a good tip for people who are scared of the pain of tattoos.
Yeah, I don't know if it will work for everyone, but for whatever reason, when I'm awake, I feel it more than when I'm...
So coffee actually helps with the pain, though. I read this online that the caffeine can help, so I've done some experimenting. Now when I get tattooed, sometimes they'll intentionally go in without caffeine, sometimes they'll go in with way too much caffeine.
Yeah.
And I find that it actually does help. As much as you're way too alert and you'd kind of rather be tired and just kind of hanging out, the caffeine does help you manage the pain a little better.
Well, I definitely always have lots of caffeine in my system. All I drink is coffee and tea.
Yeah.
Like I haven't drank anything but... The only time I have coffee now is when I'm at the shop. Everything else is green tea and chamomile tea. That's
green tea is so good for you.
I live on it.
I've recently made the switch, and I love it.
2009, I started drinking it, and I never stopped. And I
At
hated
first-
it at first.
Yeah, at first the bitter is so much, but now I like it oversteeped.
Yeah.
A couple of tea bags, it can sit there for way too long steeping, and the bit more bitter, the better now.
This is where people are always like, but I don't like the taste. And my
will.
advice is, well, you will, yes. But even if I never did, not everything in life has to be enjoyable.
Exactly.
Like some things in life it's okay for them to suck.
Mm-hmm.
Like things need to suck sometimes. Like you see people just eating donuts, like ice cream, donuts, burgers. It's just like, you're treating your body like an ashtray or like a garbage can, right?
So we live in a world where marijuana is practically considered a medicine now.
Yeah.
I'm a total weed guy.
Yeah.
I love my marijuana. I don't consider it medicine. But green tea, on the other hand, I love my green tea, and that pretty much is a medicine in a lot of ways.
Right.
So it's not about, I must enjoy this experience.
Yeah.
It's about ingesting it for the benefits.
Yep. Yep. And then eventually it just becomes, it's like my water now.
Well, it's very comforting.
Yeah. Like when I get to work, I fill up, I'm not even kidding. I have 2 pony jugs at work, 2 liters each. So 4 liters of green tea.
Yep.
I've got the same thing at home. I have a 2 liter. I chug that before work. I probably drink around 10 liters of green tea a day.
I wasn't ready for that. That's
Every day.
A lot of green tea.
And then at least 2 liters of chamomile tea at night. So I'm pissing like a racehorse.
No kidding. No kidding you are.
I feel like I look younger today than I did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I would attribute some of that to the green tea because they say it's got all these anti-aging properties and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know all the science on it, but I don't need to. I feel better and I feel like I look younger than I did 10 years ago. And that was when I was drinking.
And just one of the benefits is, like, I love my coffee, I love my warm beverages, I love my caffeine. But coffee is very acidic.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard on your teeth, it's hard on your stomach. There are things in coffee you don't find in green tea, but a half a cup a day is enough to get the polyphenols, is enough to get the benefits of coffee.
Yeah, see,
whereas green tea's easier on your body in so many ways.
I've stopped drinking coffee every day just because I found my teeth were getting a little too dark.
Exactly.
Because I only drink it black.
Yeah, same.
I don't like cream and sugar, and why am I doing this? I want
Extra
it to be,
bits.
I want it to be healthy, or that's the idea anyway. So why am I drinking calories?
Yeah.
I could eat that later at dinner or whatever, right? I'm not counting calories, but I don't want to be taking them in where I don't need to. But anyway, I found that coffee was staining my teeth, and I just casually, and then I was like, I didn't really realize until my wife was like, hey, have you ever thought about white strips? I'm like, oh God, what has happened to me?
I would really rather not.
Well, there's an episode of Seinfeld that I think of where Kramer has been smoking for like 24 hours straight in this smoker's room, and his skin is like all dry and craggly, and it's like, I was feeling that way about my teeth, where it's like it took that outside person noticing, like, hey, what happened to your teeth? And I'm like, well, nothing really happened to them. It's just been residual coffee, and all black, right? So that brown from the coffee was starting to stain my teeth. And I mean, I don't need them to be pearly white, but I don't want them to be dark brown either, right?
I kind of had that Kramer experience actually as well.
Oh, yeah?
I was living in this kind of like hippie campground thing in Australia.
Yeah.
Really cool surf town, really cool community, like 200 people all living in tents, kind of together. We all shared a kitchen and a communal area. We really were a small community. However, this community was very much indulgent in a lot of ways. We were always into the psychedelics, the cigarettes, the marijuana, the coffee. It's all part of the culture. We're all consuming these things on a regular basis. So a friend of mine had his DSLR out, this German dude. He takes this artistic picture and he holds it back and he goes, wow, you can really see the color of your teeth.
Oh,
like,
no, yeah.
So that was my, again, coming to terms moment of, that's not who I want to be.
Yeah, well, I get this. Thankfully, my wife is, she's tactful enough.
Yep.
But she can't, she's not too subtle. Where one time I hadn't been working out for a little while, she's like, "Boy, your arms are a little softer than they normally are." I'm like, "Okay, so back to working out then."
Yeah,
Because like,
yeah.
I don't want to be getting worse over time. I'd like to be getting better over time, right?
Ideally.
Like I like to try and think of aging as it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Oh, precisely.
Right. So many people are afraid of getting older because it's like I'm getting weaker, I'm getting uglier, I'm getting whatever. Right. My brain's going to be learning less, and right, you start to atrophy a bit. It doesn't have to be that way.
Death is a natural part of life.
Yeah.
When we're born, there's one thing we're sure of. Is that someday we're going to die. And aging is a very controversial subject. But if you can keep your neuroplasticity by learning new things, by intentionally keeping that curiosity and that joie de vivre in your life, you'll keep your neuroplasticity and keeping your muscle mass, which is a matter of engaging in sports and activities that challenge you physically and you enjoy, and working out. Aging can be a very enjoyable process and a very natural process if you're kind of putting off some of these hyper-typical things that people see as inevitable.
Right. Well, you see that with people where there are people my age or even younger. It's like they've accepted that they're old already.
That's right.
Where it's like that mindset starts breathing into their life, their activities, the way they look like. And then you're like, this guy's my age. He looks like he's, 45 already.
Exactly.
You got the big, give up beer gut, and it's a whole look that happens. It's a look that happens when people give up on themselves, where it's like, my life is over. You're 30. Your life is not over.
Why make that choice at 30?
Or even 40.
Or even
40. 50. I don't plan on doing that until
at any point.
Yeah, until I'm at an age where I may as well be dead.
That's right.
Statistically. Like if I get to 85, you know what I mean? Like
if I get to 85, I'm taking psychedelics.
Sure.
6 days a week.
Well, I've always kind of I don't do a whole lot of that stuff, but I've always wanted to do DMT just once.
Oh.
Just because of everything I've read about it and heard about it. But if I get to 85, it's a funny thing. I've got people, again, with the blackout or the piercings and stuff, they're like, yeah, it's great now, but what are you going to look like when you're 70? It's like, yeah, I'm going to look like shit, just like you are.
Like a badass tattooed dude.
But at the same time, everybody's falling apart at a certain age.
Of course.
People are going to start looking bad at 80. You're not going to be a world famous model when you're 80.
Does he think that at 80 he's going to be running shirtless on the beach
I don't
with
know
his
what
long blonde hair flowing in the wind?
But you see that, what are those going to look like when you're old and saggy? What are you going to look like when you're old and saggy? You're going to look like a piece of cauliflower.
That's pretty descriptive. Old and saggy.
Yeah. Or people, you're going to look like a raisin when you're old. It's like, okay, so I'll be the coolest raisin around then.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm not living my life around what I'm going to look like when I'm 80. Because I might be dead then.
My goal is to keep the green tea in my life and keep that neuroplasticity so that I'm 80, I got a bunch of other cool raisin friends to hang out with and drink my coffee and have that hilarious chat.
This is it. This is why I've always listened to tons of podcasts, or at least the last 6 years, because there's this big block of time every morning at work where I'm alone. And for that 2 or 3 hours, I've got podcasts on, different ones all the time. It started out real simple, but then it just kept broadening to where I won't say no to almost anything. Yeah, I'm convinced that you can make any topic interesting if you have the right people talking about it.
Absolutely. So I've got a few podcasts like that
where it's
get deep in the science.
Good God, we're talking about bottled water right now. It's fascinating. And my attention...
Don't get me started on bottled water. That's a wild world.
Well, my attention is right there in depth. It's if you had the wrong people talking about it, though, I might not care.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have to be charismatic, but also educational, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't say no to almost any podcast anymore. But the real problem for me now is there's so much out there that it's what do I listen to today? Because
the word we used earlier was saturated.
It's saturated, yeah. It's so saturated. There's so many people with podcasts. Here's another one, right? We're doing one now.
Yeah, here's one more.
The barrier to entry is time and desire.
That's
it. Because you can make one just on your phone. I could just ramble on my phone. In fact, that's how my YouTube started. It was just me in a spare room in my house ranting for 20 minutes. And I always thought when I got done, I was like, well, that was terrible. Like, this is awful. Why would anyone ever watch this? And then I'd stop making them for a while, and people would message me, hey, when are you going to make more of that YouTube stuff? I'm like, I was embarrassed making it. Someone was listening to it. So there is an audience for everything.
Absolutely.
Like anything, there's an audience.
Yep. My initial my initial debuts on YouTube were skit shows of sorts made in my parents' basement with my friends.
Oh, yeah?
And they were based on some pretty classic comedy skit style things, but done real poor. Like real bad. As you'd expect from 16-year-olds living in New Brunswick.
Yeah.
Right on target. Some stuff I still watch. Real proud of it.
Yeah.
Really terrible.
Yeah, where it's cringe, but it's still good. Like,
Not even good. Just cringe, but it goes back to that painful experience that has a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
Right there.
Nostalgia attached to it.
Same stuff.
New Brunswick? Are you from New Brunswick then?
Sure am.
I'm from Nova Scotia myself.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I've been here since 2001, I think.
Oh, cool.
Right.
2009 was the first time I popped up in Lethbridge.
So, you mentioned your travels.
Yeah.
What had you in Australia and Cambodia? And wherever else?
A general desire for travel is what landed me in Australia. So I used to be strongly religious and was actually preaching in Mexico when I was 21.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I ended up here. I was 21, living in Mexico, met a cute religious girl.
Sure.
That lived in Lethbridge.
Yeah.
So, poof, let's move to Lethbridge. Why not?
Yeah.
So here I am in Alberta. Had some changes of faith, had some changes in my belief system, but still kept that desire to travel. So Australia was just a nice, accessible way to get tropical, get some wild experiences, get hanging out with some dirty backpackers.
Sure.
So I basically booked a plane ticket, saved up a bunch of money, working in the oil field, and showed up in Australia. Showed up there, said, hey, there's a camper van culture here. Bought a camper van my second day. I've been in the country for 36 hours, and I was like, I want one of those. So 36 hours in, I'm in downtown Sydney, driving my camper van on what to me is the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
It's a 1992. It's got a big sloppy clutch and a big sloppy shifter. And so began one of the most exciting adventures of my life.
Yeah.
I met some really incredible people. And since then, most of my travels have actually been meeting back up with chunks of that community I was speaking about. So that community that I made there was actually very impactful to me. And for example, trimming marijuana in California last year, that was also a chunk of that group of people. Just all of us living on a farm, growing and trimming weed. So beautiful time.
For you, a great thing long-term would be to be a traveling tattoo artist doing guest spots.
That's very much part of the plan.
I'm sure. Like, just listening to you, I'm like, this guy's going to tour all over.
I had my debut in Cambodia, of all places. Yeah. So it's definitely part of my plan to travel with it.
How long do you think until that would be, like, full-time what you would do? Or is there a timeline?
Probably not full-time, because I'm at an age now where I want to have some roots down.
Yeah,
I enjoy having a consistent social life. The community I've built here is not as fickle as the traveling community. The traveling community kind of came from everywhere and easily scatters back to everywhere. Whereas the group of friends I made here are the kind of friends that I want to be near when civilization collapses. I want to be near them in times of poor health. I want to be near them in times of need and in times of their need as well. They're my community. I'm here to support them. They're here to support me. And that's not something you find on the road.
Yeah. You make transitory kind of connections. Yeah.
But a couple of years from now, so like I want to do another 2 solid years at Rocky Mountain Tattoo full time and really learn as much as I can. Yeah. Because, well, you've seen my work. It's changing by the week right now.
Yeah, it is.
Just taking like, steps forward.
Like, really, it's leveling up the way it should.
Exactly.
In my opinion, like, where it's like, okay, you can see the progression.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be, oh, you did the same application, it just got bigger.
That's it. That's it. That's what we're changing here.
Yeah.
We're really going bigger. We're going better. We're going bolder. We're going more solid black. We're going smoother midtones.
Yeah.
We're going, we're taking in more artistic concept into practice here. But after a couple of years of this, I'm hoping then to maybe be here 6 months a year, and then be in South America or Southern Asia or
And then
Eastern
just
Europe
book
6 months
that
a
way.
year.
Like, Scott will be around for these times. And part of my life is, like, I always wanted to travel more. I have this deep desire to travel to places that I might never go, like, just because my life is quite rooted.
Yep.
So if I do that, it'll be much later. Like,
That's
I had
right,
my
that's
son
right.
when I was 20,
Yep.
so, and he'll be 12 right away.
Yeah, wow.
So I've had thick roots here. I own a house in Lethbridge. What I used to do with my love life was a bit of, I used to think of it as romanticizing my wanderlust, where it was
Yeah.
like, I can't leave, so I was finding people from farther away and bringing them here. Like, I had several long distance relationships,
Yep.
2 of which women moved here to be with me.
Wow.
My second and third fiancés were both, one from Ontario and one was living in BC, but used to be here.
Crazy.
And I think, like, I found these people in other parts of the world or other parts of Canada, and I kind of had relationships with them from different places.
Because they were a window to that part of the world.
Because, yeah, they were a window to somewhere else.
That's right. That's
Anywhere
right.
else but here. And it was weird. I was kind of realizing what I was doing in the moment, but also not. Like, it was like, if I could just move there, would I find this person as interesting?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
it was a very strange thing that I was doing for a long time, where I feel like I really wanted to be able to go and just run free, but I had my son and I felt shackled here. And so it was like, how can I make my life more interesting this way? And yeah, human psychology, man.
It's a weird one.
It's a weird one. What you find yourself doing, and you're like, I need to figure out why and fix it. So
If you can observe your own actions and your own process of how you got to those actions,
that's how
you come out much further ahead of the human psychology curve.
Right. You start seeing your own patterns, and then you
Yep.
can kind of reverse engineer it and put it
Exactly.
together in a healthy way.
Which is super key.
Because, like, I felt doing that wasn't fair to me or the other person in the end, because it always became normal
Yep.
for both of us. Like, it's almost got this fairy tale appeal when you're doing something like a long distance relationship.
Yep.
Because it's like, you can't have that person all the time. So when you do see them, it's so magical.
Don't
You
get me
know-
started in long distance relationships.
I'm sure you've done it.
I've played that game a few times before.
Yeah.
And the psychology behind them is so curious to me, and I'm not even gonna bash it,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of magic
Yeah.
in a long distance relationship. There's a lot of particular feelings you don't get, but I don't think they're inherently that healthy.
No, I think it's too much waiting, and when
It's too much weight. Exactly.
it's too much waiting, and then that you never get a real clear picture of who that person is when you get them.
That's
'Cause
it.
You're on your best behavior, right?
That's it.
Everything's shiny and glowy, and then when you move in together, you're kind of expecting that to still happen.
Even if they're perfect for you, you've still built up this over the phone, this video chat, whatever. You've still built up
Yeah.
this imagination of who they are.
Yeah.
And when they do finally slink into your life, you kind of overdo it. You kind of try to put them in too big of a position in your life.
Yeah.
Because your emotions make it feel like they should be right here, taking up this part of your life.
Yeah.
However, they don't fit into your life yet. If you notice when you build a partner normally, it's slowly. It happens over months that they gradually become a part of your life.
Yeah.
They slowly meet your friends. They slowly fit into your routine. It happens more one step at a time. Whereas long distance, someone finally shows up for 3 days or 3 weeks. Now they're here 24 hours a day in your space, part of your person.
Yeah.
You're not going to make 3 months.
It's like, you would expect that you'll be so happy with this person, you finally got them, but then you start seeing their flaws too.
Perception versus reality.
Right, and it's like, your flaws don't always get along as well as you would have expected, right?
Especially not when you're pushing it that hard.
Yeah, and then that's where things start to fall apart.
Big time.
Big time.
Yeah, I sort of had a bit of a long distance thing with a girl that I met at a music festival. Really beautiful girl, really incredible, inspiring person that I just fell head over heels in love with. Had a bit of a long distance thing. We only lived 10 hours apart, so we saw each other every now and then. I brought her to Cambodia with me the second time I went.
Yeah.
And she was really poisonous. This magical person, well, I saw some issues before I left. It was already a bit too late, and I could tell that she was going through a bit of a depression, a bit of some mental health struggle, and I'm a patient guy. I can work with this, I thought. We got there, way too much for me. It was so much.
Yeah.
Kind of ruined my time a little bit. I did my best. And that's the important thing. I did my best. She did her best in her own way. But it was one of those shining moments of you take something that has a bit of distance to it, you start pushing too hard, you get too much into his personal space. You didn't, and there was a lot on her part. It was just she had really imagined how things were supposed to be. But turns out I'm living in Cambodia. I'm bartending 32 hours a week, and I'm tattooing 25 to 40 hours a week.
Yeah. So you're not around much.
And all my friends are here.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a bit of a lifestyle, and this kind of occupies my time.
And she was expecting you to be more available.
She was expecting me to wake her up singing, I don't know, a prayer to her or something. She had some different expectations.
Right.
She really wanted me to be like smashing a tambourine, singing about her qualities.
This, my third fiance, as I said earlier, when she moved here after we'd been back and forth, like she'd come here.
Yeah.
I moved there, or I went out there to visit her and meet her family, and then she came to live with me. But I always said that she never really lived here so much as she lived there, but with me.
That's right.
Because all of her family and friends were there, and she was always in communication with them. She never got her bags unpacked physically, like mentally, I should say, here.
Yes.
Her shit was unpacked, but she was still living halfway there, which is ultimately, I think, what killed it for us, was she never invested in anything in this city.
It's hard to make that healthy.
Right.
You can't have one person as your whole focus in life. You're not going to find that personally fulfilling.
Right.
You're not going to know why you're not fulfilled.
And then
you're going to blame your partner.
You blame the person that you moved there for. Like, this guy wasn't as good as I thought he was.
Of course you do.
I probably was as good as you thought I was, but you just don't have nothing else here. And so you have everything else there calling you home.
Yeah.
And it's just me here struggling to try and be your everything.
She feels longing, lack of fulfillment. She feels a lot of things, possibly as well a lack of identity.
Yeah.
When you have nothing in a town except your partner, suddenly you feel yourself assuming their identity. And of course you don't feel comfortable. That's not you. They're not you. One person cannot reflect who you are and carry you through an entire lifestyle.
And see, I realized all of this after this happened. I would still have these passing online flirtations with women. And then I would go, I'm not doing this to us.
Nope.
Like,
don't even.
I there was the one time I guess I went it probably the wrong way, where I kind of ghosted this girl.
Yep.
And I felt bad, but she found me a little bit later, and she was like, well, why did you do that? And I just gave her the story. I was like, look.
Because I know I would enjoy it.
I know that we would enjoy this. But we would enjoy it too much, and then we'd make a mess, right? And I don't want to involve myself in any more hurt like this.
I've spent too much time making messes.
Right.
And I'm ready to spend my time productively.
Right. I need to find something that will work, that could possibly work, and this can't possibly work. And maybe in another life it could, but in the life we're living, it's not going to work.
Yep.
Like,
if you happen to end up moving to Lethbridge, Alberta, with a job and a group of friends and a healthy lifestyle, let me know. We'll probably get along great.
Right. So this is where, once you've seen yourself like do something more than once, You should start to recognize a pattern of what you're doing. Like, I started realizing this is not a healthy thing for me to do.
Nope.
And if I realize that and still do it, now I'm being an asshole.
Now you're the perpetrator.
Now I'm preying on people,
Yeah.
right? Because I already know how this goes.
Of course.
So doing that to someone else, it's almost voluntarily hurting them, right? And hurting yourself too.
I agree strongly.
So
really strongly.
You're like, why am I doing this to us?
Yep.
And so I couldn't live with that lie anymore. Like the first time I did it, I kind of realized it. It was like, I can live with this. I can do this again. Maybe it was just bad luck or something.
Yeah.
And then after twice, it's like, you need to stop doing this.
Yeah, once a pattern, once a trend is born, and you realize it's born out of a less healthy aspect, a less healthy or a more selfish part of your personality, it's time to nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
And learning that self-control, being able to observe that in yourself and make healthy decisions based on it, is one of the most prime examples of personal growth that we can even point to.
Yeah.
You're literally learning not just self-control, but you're learning how to spend your time better in the long run, despite your immediate desires and cravings.
It's learning how to be less destructive and more productive.
Yeah.
Like for all parties.
And not even in like the daily life, but in your months long, in your longer term goals, and longer term endeavors.
Because that might feel good for a few days.
But it's going to jeopardize your daily well-being within 6 months.
Right. And well-being, I think, is much more important than momentary happiness.
So important.
And that's where I'm at even with tattooing too. Like if I'm sitting here suffering for an hour, it's so that I can be living better later.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
For example, if you were living on a tight budget, you're going to have a better life having $1,000 in the bank than eating a nice steak every single day.
Yeah.
Because
I see like that all the time.
Of course. It's so common in our society.
Oh my good God, you've got no money and you're treating yourself to a steak dinner.
That's right. Or whatever your indulgence is.
Yeah.
Whether it's that overpriced scotch or there's whatever. I love some indulgences.
Yeah.
But in this comparison, having $0 in your bank and a daily indulgence versus having actual savings and a few less indulgences, you're going to be more long-term. You're going to be long-term happier simply because you have a sense of well-being, knowing that if you blow a tire tomorrow, it's no sweat to just buy a new tire or repair something on your car, or if your landlord gets shitty, you have a down payment to move to a different apartment.
A healthy bubble.
That's right.
Like me with getting into heavy tattooing, really about 5 years ago. That was after I already owned a house and I already had structure. So I'm safe.
you've obviously already taken certain steps to be healthy financially.
Yeah. So that when I started doing this, I wouldn't be completely screwed if something went wrong, right?
Yeah.
People always wonder how I can afford to do this, right? Like Kevin has said, when people see me, they're like, how does that guy pay for all of this? He gets tattooed every week. At one point, I was getting tattooed twice a week for 2 years straight.
Wow.
Well, I did that after I had my life set.
That's right.
Right?
Very carefully.
That's why I do these transformation posts on Instagram, and it's like it's such a short span of time. I went so far, and people aren't really getting the full story there. How I was able to do that was years of planning. Like it was like I'm almost setting myself up for a life where that's possible, and then engaging in it.
Absolutely.
Right? Not trying to do that when you've got almost no money.
Whereas if you bought a $300,000 house and an $80,000 truck when you were 18, you would still be broke.
Oh yeah. And my house
you'd still be sitting here going, I have no money for a single tattoo.
Yeah. And I mean, my house it's an older house. It's small.
Of course.
It's all I need. I could probably live in a box and be happy.
I'll tell you a secret. People in Cambodia, friends of mine, are living in shacks made of sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're happy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. We don't really need that much to be happy.
We sure don't.
People think that they need to have so much.
You want to know another secret? Even really crappy houses in this country have drinking water coming right out of the tap. It is so hilarious and such a novelty. After you live without running water for a while, you come back and it's not only running water, but it's potable running water.
I say this all the time. Perspective is a hell of a drug.
Oh my God. I love it.
Like, what's normal for us is luxury for someone else.
Exactly.
And what we take for granted, someone else would be dying to have.
So that old house built back in 1832 with some horse wool and newspaper insulation in the walls, it's still a nice house in comparison to no house.
Yeah, it could always be worse.
I'm not insinuating that's your house.
No, my house is I
like to go to the
1908.
I like to go to the end of the spectrum for my examples. That's
No,
all.
I know. You got to take it to the lowest or the highest possible point.
That's
to make the
exactly
point.
it.
But yeah, no, I bought a house on single income when I was 25.
Beautiful.
I had to save up $20,000
Great.
for the down payment because they made it really hard for first-time homeowners. But I
Yep.
did it, and then after that,
Well, that was probably shortly after 2008.
so I think that was 2013 when I bought my house.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, no, I bought that, and then my mortgage was much cheaper than my rent. So I had all this extra money now, right? And then I was still with women that at the time weren't working, that I was single breadwinner. But when I met my current wife now, she's always been financially supportive. She pays her share of the bills, right? She's always had a job, so I don't have to take care of her anymore. So her contributions and me owning my own house, kind of the perfect storm for me to finally have some of my own money. And this is where it's going, has been my tattooing, right?
There's another life lesson that it takes all too long to learn, but finding a girl that's financially stable is a pretty giant thing to your long-term happiness and well-being.
Yeah, and most of my life so far has been spent taking care of someone else.
And it takes a lot of pressure off the relationship too.
Yep.
When a woman walks in and says, yes, I am a strong, independent woman. Watch how I live my life.
Yep.
And you stand back and say, hey, I genuinely respect you.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I was with so many women that didn't have, well, not so many. I was with 4 different women that didn't have jobs.
Yep.
And for different reasons. One of them was physically sick.
Yep.
My son's mother had Crohn's. She actually passed away in 2016. She had stomach cancer.
Wow.
But her whole life she was sick. So it started out that way.
Crazy.
Right? It started out from me taking care of her. And she had a legitimate reason.
Yep.
But then because I'd been with someone who didn't work, it was like I was on this trajectory to find more people who didn't work.
Right. Well, it certainly wasn't a deal breaker for you anyway.
No, it wasn't a deal breaker. And I don't think I realized that I was looking for that. Like, it wasn't conscious. I wasn't like, I've got to find me a woman that doesn't work.
That's what felt comfortable to you.
Yeah.
So that's naturally what your subconscious sort of steered you toward,
so,
you know?
My second fiance ended up, when we got together, she did work, but then she lost her job. And then my inkling
just really
was,
never.
well, it's okay. I can take care of it. And then she
Mm-hmm.
leaned into that.
Yep.
And then that built that up even more into where the next girl I found didn't have a job.
And you're like,
right?
obviously.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, I've done this before.
Yeah.
And then when I met the girl from Ontario, then she moved here, and it was like, well, of course I'm going to support her. You know what I mean? Like, it just became, I was building into it.
Again, it's habitual.
Yeah. And it became, I started to wonder if I was, like, if I was never going to find, or if I even wanted to have a woman that had a job at that point. Like, it was really weird. I started thinking, like, why is this my pattern? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I met my current wife, it was a lot of going against my own, like, psychology that I built up. Like, I was finding women that I knew would be bad for me, and I was like pursuing them, and I go like, no, turn, steer. And so then I found my wife, and she was everything I hadn't had before, and it felt hard to start.
Yep.
But it was like,
Yep.
this is good for me. This is good. She has a good family. She went to school. She's got a job. She has her own apartment. Like, she's taking care of her life. She's a successful, intelligent person. Like, And it was hard to go in that direction, but it was exactly what I needed to do.
That's kind of like the daily indulgences versus longer term happinesses, you know? The daily indulgences of this is what I'm used to, I feel good being generous with and supporting this person, great.
Yeah.
But long term, there's certain doubts, there's certain respect issues, there's certain things that are drawbacks to that lifestyle. Whereas getting used to your newer, most recent style of partner, okay, some of those daily indulgences are gone, but if we look at a little bit longer term perspective, she's having a much better impact on your mental health and on your lifetime satisfaction.
And especially with the timing of it. My last ex, before her, when she left abruptly, and it was one of those things where you go to work and you come home and everything's gone, and there was no explanation. I didn't get an explanation until months later.
Yep.
There's just the way that happened was she left on a dime out of nowhere, and my son never understood it. It was like, where's so-and-so, right? Mm-hmm. And then my son was getting to an age where he was starting to understand and miss people.
Yep.
Like when he was younger,
attachment happens quite early.
When he was younger, it was a little bit easier. Like it was like, you know, they're gone. But that time it made a mark that will never go away.
That's right.
Very attached to that person, and I started going against those habits because I was like, I have a son whose mother is gone now. I can't have these transitory people coming in and out of my life anymore.
Real talk.
I have to find someone stable who's going to be around and supportive for me and my son. And so I owe it not just to myself anymore, but to my son as well, to have a woman that's going to be there for him and me. And it doesn't even have to be that I'm looking for a mother for him, because my wife she's like the cool aunt to him, or like a good friend, or you know,
there's
what I mean?
A lot of I know what you mean way too well. There's a lot of parallels here with myself and my primary partner. So my primary partner has 2 kids, and over COVID, sure, I did take more of a stepdad role a little bit, just because I was around so much and our bubble was really small. So I did take on a bit of a parenting role. But in our normal life, the way our relationship is set up, I am just fun Uncle Scott, more or less.
Yeah.
At times when the little boy kind of thinks I'm his brother a little bit, but I try to get them to call me Auntie Scott, just because that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So we do have a strong relationship there, but I'm not trying to take any kind of real parenting role, simply because, well, if I have to leave for 6 months at a time to go traveling, I want the kids to not miss me too much. Also, they have their father in their life in a healthy, ongoing way, 50% of the time. So really, they don't need another parenting figure. They just need a strong male model in their life during their mom's weeks.
It's important to see men and women getting along as a kid,
Of course
right?
it is.
Because then you'll have a better relationship one day yourself.
Yep.
Like, I think a lot of my problem was, like, my dad was, wherever the hell he was never around.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other story. But I didn't really see my mom and my dad interact well, right? So I think my relationship with women suffered from that.
Yeah.
Now I've had a mixed bag. I think I've been more successful than unsuccessful, because just because something doesn't work long term doesn't mean it was a waste.
Of course
not. This
not.
is my thing. Like, people dog on their exes and stuff, like, fuck that one, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, no, that was a great experience. It's just not every experience is meant to last forever.
I can still share you some negative aspects of my past relationships, but you're rarely gonna hear me say, oh, she was such a B word, or she was such a piece of this. Yeah. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say, okay, there were times she really put me through the ringer.
Yeah.
There were times that she really got on my nerves. You're not gonna hear me say that she was a real piece of this.
Well, this is it. Like, in any relationship, it does take 2 people, right? And I know that I could have been better at times. Like, I could have been worse at times. Like, but overall, we meet lots of people. How many of them are we supposed to be with forever? How many? Maybe none. I'm a non-monogamous person to begin with, so I already kind of believe in none and whoever fits. Yep.
You know, so it's back to the children aspect of this, when I kind of have to reassure her of this, because she has fears like, what if the kids build a strong relationship with you and you disappear? And my reassurance is not, I'm never the kind of guy to say, I'll be here forever. That's not me. I'm not going to promise anyone that. I can get hit by a bus tomorrow. I can accidentally end up in South America forever. Who knows? I'm not promising anything.
Yeah. Under promise, over deliver.
It's exactly. And it's rare I use the words always and never.
Yeah.
Unless I'm talking about the words always and never. So that said, I still am very clear where I say, hey, in 10 years, I still want you in my life. I still want them in my life. It doesn't have to be at the same level of intensity or the same capacity. It can look a lot different, but I obviously respect you and care about you and the little ones. Mm-hmm. So I'm not about to disappear at the drop of a hat and break everyone's heart. That's not what I'm here for.
I think that going isn't traumatizing. It's the sudden abrupt leaving with no explanation that's traumatizing.
Exactly.
Right? So if things are well explained and they make sense, then it doesn't have to be, that awful, where'd this person go? Right?
If I can pull up a Skype chat every now and then on video and say, hey, I know I'm not around. Mm-hmm. I still care for you. I still value you.
Yeah.
That dynamic changes drastically.
Oh, yeah.
With a few simple actions like that.
Yeah, for sure. And we're in an age where no one is ever more than a click away anymore.
It's crazy.
Yeah.